How flexible are your simulation models to be adapted to the project requirements? In previous video, we were checking how powerful the use of shell elements is to optimize our simulation models. But as we know, with a great power comes great responsibility. During preparing these previous models, we saw that one little mistake in the shell element's definition gave us wrong results which didn't make any sense. We were analyzing under the same conditions, but the results were wrong. The good news is that if you follow a correct methodology that helps you understand all the process and implement the good practices from the beginning, you will always guarantee the good performance of your simulations. You can take a look at the description below because that methodology will help you learn fast and apply today with the best practices in FEA simulation. Okay, today I want to show you that once we validate our simulation models using any type of element, we will have much more alternatives to be flexible and adapt our FEA models to the project requirements. We were comparing results from a model using solid elements with a model using shell elements. Today we are going to review what happens when we combine both of them, solid and shell elements, in the same model. Okay, subscribe if you haven't yet, and let's get into it. Hi, Carlos here, and for those of you who don't know me yet, I've been more than 12 years validating real engineering FEA projects across different industries. So I created my validation method to train FEA the way industry actually demands. You will find all the details in the description below. Now let's continue reviewing concepts of that methodology. Okay, before we move to the simulation, let's make a quick summary of what we saw previously. Basically, we ran 3 simulations of this truck chassis using shell elements. All of them had exactly the same definition, the same loads, the same materials, the same mesh. Only one thing was different, and the results that we obtained were completely wrong. That little difference between them was the shell definition. This is crucial because depending on the 2D model that we prepare in the pre-process, we will need to define our shell elements differently. As a summary, in the next slide, I'm showing you the 3 main options. Well, we will have also a more advanced options, but we'll review in other videos. Right now, the important thing is to understand that we can offset the 2D surfaces to grow in the middle surface of the part, the top surfaces of the part, and the bottom surfaces of the part. Depending on what we previously defined in the model, we will need to define the correct configuration of our shell elements. The good thing now is that we have 2 models to trust. One model using solid elements and one model using shell elements. Therefore, now we have the flexibility of using solid or shell elements depending on our necessities. Because what if we combine them? Let's move to the software to find out. What I want to show you here today is how to combine solid elements with shell elements and how this can affect to your results. All of that process is going to give you an insane confidence when preparing your simulation models. I can assure that. Here I already prepared 2 more configurations for the chassis. I will activate the configuration number 1, this one. Okay, here we have the longitudinal profiles in 3 dimensions to use solid elements and the cross members in 2 dimensions to use shell elements. The contact interaction here will be crucial for a good performance of the structure. Let's move to the simulation model. Okay, here I have it. As always, it's all the same. Same materials, same boundaries, same mesh. Just the difference of the elements used. Doing so, we can always compare with what we already simulated and we trust. Okay, I will show you the mesh. Okay, we have the longitudinal members with a very accurate solid mesh, and for the cross members, we are using shell elements in order to reduce the computational cost. Okay, let me show you the results. If I go to a stress plot, okay, not bad, right? Similar behavior of what we saw in previous simulations. Good. Let me show you the maximum value. Okay, here we have a peak of 235.1 megapascals, which is practically the same value that we saw in the model of solid elements, and it's located at the same region. Good. We'll compare them later to make conclusions. Now, what I want you to do is to follow and understand the entire process. Let's continue. Now I want to show you another point to evaluate components separately, because here we are seeing all the time that the maximum value is happening in the longitudinal members, close to the rear suspension bracket attachment. But what is happening in the cross members? Let's evaluate them. I will create a new plot. I go here, stress plot, and then I will drop down this advanced options menu and I will activate this option to show plot only on selected entities. I will select by component and I will select my cross member like this. I will ask for the max annotation and I will accept. Okay, so here we have this plot. We can see that the maximum value is located in the second cross beam and it's showing a peak of 210.3 megapascals. Good. So with this plot, we'll be able to evaluate both the longitudinal members and also these cross members. If you like the content of this video, I will really appreciate you a like and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the next videos coming. And if you want to learn how to actually apply all of this in real engineering projects using my validation method, you can find all the details in the description below. Let's continue. I will activate the factor of safety plot. Okay, so basically here we have a simulation where we are using solid elements in the longitudinal profiles and shell elements in the transversal profiles. Now, what happens if we switch that condition? And the question is our model stable and robust enough to guarantee a consistency in the performance of the simulation? Let's find out. I move it to the model again, and here I will activate the second configuration that I prepared. Okay, now we have the longitudinal members in 2 dimensions and the cross members in 3 dimensions to use solid elements here and shell elements in the surfaces. Let's see what happens with this model. I'm moving to the simulation study that I already prepared to show you. As always, we are using the same materials, same loads, same conditions. So let me show you the results. As always, we are checking the stress values. Maybe you are tired of seeing the stress values, but we need to check always the same results to validate the simulation. And once we do that, we can enter into detail of the rest. For example, I can show you the displacement. Here we have the maximum displacement as we were expecting, right? Because we are applying the load here. The other very useful plot is the factor of safety, which will help us to find all the regions where we can have problems. For example, here and here. Good, but coming back to our validation process, I will check the maximum stress value. Okay, now the peak value of stress is 237.5 megapascals. You don't see the form shape? Now yes. Okay, and it's also quite similar to the values that we were reviewing. And this is located also in the connection zone to the rear suspension bracket. Good. So here we have 4 models with different combinations. Let me put them in the same screen. Okay, so here we are. We have the model 1 with everything in solid elements. The model 2 with everything in shell elements. The model 3 with a combination in solid and shell elements, and the model number 4 with another combination of solid and shell elements. As you can see in the values that we are obtaining, 236.8, 230.3, 235 and 237.5. So here the conclusion is, if we have a correct definition of our model, we can be flexible to adapt our simulation to the requirements of the project. As we were checking also the cross member plots at the beginning, let me show you these values. Okay, I go to the first one and I will plot and I will activate the cross members. Go to the second one and I will show the cross members. Go to the third and show the cross members, and the same for the number 4. Okay, so here we have them. One point that we can check is that all of them are located in the same cross member and the same side of the vehicle, so they are in the same location. The value that we can see is around 210 megapascals, so the values are quite similar. So with this comparison, we are increasing the level of our validation. As we had for the longitudinal members, here in the cross profiles, we also have similar values. So practically the same behavior. This is called consistency. What do you think? As we saw in previous video, working with shell elements is super powerful, but we need to know how to use them properly. And here, what we did is to demonstrate that we can trust in our results when working with shell elements. I hope this is inspiring you to keep learning FEA simulation. As always, we will continue investigating more interesting topics in next videos. And if you want to make the difference and learn how to actually apply all of this in real engineering projects using my validation method, You can find all the details in the description below. Subscribe if you haven't yet. See you in next simulation.